Hey folks, last night was All Hallows Eve or Beltane here in Tassie, and it made me reflect on traditions. I do a huge big decoration in my yard every year and also do a tiny little altar for Beltane with some spring flowers and crystals and just set my intentions for my relationships for the year, which is a good time to do it. So made me think of traditions at large. In Australia, we don't do enough traditions, I don't think. You know, we all came from somewhere else. Even the native people of our land originally came from somewhere else. Even though they've been here for thousands and thousands of years. So, for being such a multicultural country, we didn't seem to carry those traditions with us for whatever reason. So, you know, we're a country built from people escaping from one place to find safer land, to find a connected community. And it's interesting that in that process of wanting to start over, a lot of people have neglected their traditions that they used to have. So, yes, sure, there's a lot of Easter traditions, Christmas, things like that. But there's so many other things that we could be doing. Now, family traditions have seemed to have gone out the window as well. So having dinner together overnight on the table, we make sure we do device-free at the table so that we can connect and have that time together. And that in itself is a tradition. So my family don't really have many traditions. I grew up in a religious background as well. So it's interesting, you know, what we celebrate and why we celebrate it, I guess. And traditions are something that I think that we need to bring into our life for our children. So we have little traditions of family meetings. We have little traditions of pancake breakfasts on birthdays. We have little traditions of choosing what they'd like for dinner. Things like that. Like when we have family dinner nights. So I'd like to look more about traditions and see what else I can bring into my family. It would be really nice if I was still connected to the cultures of my ancestors that I have no idea about, because it's stuff they didn't talk about. They wanted to close off their past life. So I have a convict-based history, and my granny's grandma was a convict, and she flatly refused to talk about it. In fact, she used to wallop my grandmother if she asked her about her past. And it's really sad that we don't have those stories, that we don't have her traditions, that we don't know what her ancestors did either. We've lost that connection. And it's the same on the other side of the family. We know they were quite well off and where they came from. But apart from that, we've lost all family history from that moment on. So we don't know what happened before that, but we knew that they were a very well-off family. And back then they donated, I think it was £2,000 to their local church. Now, that today would be like, I don't know, close to $1 million, I think, from, you know, back then from what wages were. And then the next week they were convicted as convicts because a donkey was found on their land. And they were a very well-off family. They didn't need to steal a donkey. They had donkeys of their own and hectares and hectares of land and wealth. But they were sent over here as convicts. And so I don't know what happened to the rest of their family. We still don't know what happened to all their siblings. So those family connections, where they came from, who they actually were, what they celebrated. And I guess I've always felt those connections to my ancestors and been sad that those stories have been lost. That I don't have those connections and I don't get to celebrate their traditions. And what a wonderful way it would be to be able to respect them by bringing some traditions into your life. So if you ever think about your ancestors and what they would have celebrated, where they came from, the traditions from thousands and thousands of years, the stories that have been passed down from thousands and thousands of years. And that's where I really love the Aboriginal culture, and I love the Native American Indian culture, and there's so many other cultures that have just shared those stories and those paintings and those jewelry and things like that down the years, so that those stories and their traditions have remained. And I feel very blessed that some of those traditions have remained, and that nowadays they're being more respected and upheld. Regardless of all the trauma that happened, I'm glad that there's change there, there's a shift there, so that people can celebrate their traditions and their ancestors and celebrate the life that they have now. And I guess that's the same for us, We've all been through our own traumas and our own battles, dramas, and a lot of those are ones that we've held on to ourselves. And we can't live our full life until we sit with those and celebrate those, those things in life now that we have, that we love, and that we're lucky to have. So there's my little reflection on traditions. Post All Hallows Eve. So this morning I set myself a few more intentions on the first day of Beltane, and looking at what I want to grow, what I want to cultivate, what I want to build for myself in my relationship and my personal relationship with myself over the next coming season, year, whatever. And so it's really nice to sit with those little traditions, regardless of your religion or your beliefs, to sit with the old traditions of those days, because setting our intentions for something, it's that pathway for it to actually happen, for us to think about. It's like a gentle goal almost. And putting that out to the universe, there's no harm in that, regardless of your religion. The universe, spirit, God, whatever it is, setting your intention for something and being gentle with yourself in the hope that you can achieve that is a beautiful thing. So today I'd like you to sit with your celebrations, with your traditions, and have a look at why you love them. What is it about that? Does it create connections? Does it remind you of your childhood? Does it make you remember your granny's apron and cooking with her, or, cutting sticks with your granddad to light the fire, or, whatever it is that when you all gathered together with your family to celebrate something in those traditions, what was it about it that you loved and why? So that will give you a deeper connection to yourself and remind you of those special little moments and those memories. So that's my little talk on traditions. I could go on further because I love cultures, and I have so many books on different cultures and their stories and their traditions. And there's one little thing in that I do want to share. The beginning of time, the stories of the beginning of time as human life in existence. So many cultures have such similar stories from all around the world that have been passed down from generation to generation. And when you look at the Bible's reflection of how life started, they're actually really similar to these cultures. When it comes down to it, not the same words, but the story behind it, very similar things that shaped our world and us as humans. And I love that those stories were passed down, because it just shows that we're all connected and we are all from the same source. Regardless of your beliefs on that, we're all connected. And that's why it's important to tell your story also, so your children know where you came from and your stories and your traditions and your grandmother's traditions. You know, we were a part of our grandma when we were an egg in your mother's stomach. So being connected to your elders and their stories is super important, because part of our DNA is still linked with theirs, with your nervous system. And epigenetics, whatever, there's amazing research out there. So their stories are your stories, regardless of whether you know them or not. You can still feel them. So celebrating those and giving honour to your ancestors is super important. So that's my little talk on traditions today. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll be reflecting with you on whatever else comes to my mind sometime again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.